It is high. It is far. It is gone.
Ahí va. Por el left field. Olvídala. Esa bola cae en la calle. Esa se va. Se va. Se fue.
And we're back. This week's Yankee GIF contest winner is the Funkasaurus at Pretty Funk Era. He wrote, and this is what we would look like in mustaches. Honestly, Rizzo showing all his teammates that his phone, and they must have seen something funny because they probably would all look atrocious in mustaches. So, yeah, good job, Funkasaurus.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite. There were some other ones that I know we can't. I don't think we could say over our podcast, but that one's probably my favorite one. Definitely, I'm extremely curious to know what they were looking at. I'm assuming it was game film, but to all get a chuckle like that, it makes you wonder if it really was, if it wasn't. But yeah, that's probably my favorite one. Hopefully, next week's we'll have more answers, and we'll get better pickings
for sure.
First off, before we start anything, let me introduce Jared Timms from Talkin Halos. Jared, how you doing?
I'm doing too bad. I'm excited to have to be back on.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's been a little while since we last talked. The season's a little different for both of us. I think we talked at the end of May the last time, and yeah, it's the season has definitely turned in a specific direction for both teams. It's going to be interesting. We've got a couple things to talk about. First, I want to introduce Alex as well. Alex, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. I'm excited to get this going. Jared, I'm just going to come right off the bat, and before I get into anything, let's just start with the series at hand. Yanks this time come to visit you in Anaheim. Yanks were in a big slide for the last 6 weeks or so, but have turned it around lately. What are you expecting in the series? What's an X factor for us Yankee fans to look out for when visiting Anaheim?
Yeah, Mike Trout just came back off the IL. That's huge for the Angels. I mean, huge for baseball in general when you get somebody like that back. Shohei Ohtani's playing MVP caliber baseball. I know there's somebody else on that East Coast that probably deserves a little bit more, but he's playing some fantastic baseball. When you can do what he's doing, that's tough to beat. But the Angels are interesting. I know they've struggled very, very bad, but they have some very interesting pieces. The pitching's been really, really good as of late. So I would expect the pitching to hold up. However, last time we talked, I think I said something and it went the complete opposite way of what I said. So the pitching will probably be bad, and the hitting will probably be good. So, but yeah, Reed Detmers has looked fantastic. I don't know if you guys will see him. Shohei Ohtani, Jose Suarez over his last 5 starts has looked really, really good as well. You might see somebody like that. Tucker Davidson has been really interesting. They acquired him in the Raisel Iglesias trade from Atlanta. He's been very interesting, a very interesting young pitcher there. And it's just all around been really, really good. Michael Lorenzen might be coming off the IL for that series. He makes a rehab start today, so you might see him late in the series. I'm not 100% sure. It might be after that. But yeah, it's a new team. It really is. The Angels don't have Raisel Iglesias anymore. They don't have Brandon Marsh in the outfield anymore. Noah Syndergaard is no longer an Angel, of course. So it's kind of a new team. Got a little bit younger for sure. But yeah, if the offense is clicking like it has in this Toronto series, it'll be a fun series. And I think the Angels will match up well against any pitchers the Yankees throw out there. But it comes down to the hitting. It really does. So.
No, man, you forgot to mention one of my favorite people to watch from the Angels, Patrick Sandoval, who had that awesome game against the Tigers this week. When you look over the roster, you see talent. You see plenty of talent there, but there's just something that always is, again, there's something that is missing from kind of just gelling the whole thing together. You can call that managerial. You can call that, just missing one or two pieces. But the Angels don't seem like a team that's far away from from really making an impact. And obviously, I think they're under the gun that they have to kind of make that impact next year. We say that every year with the Angels, to be honest with you, but next year is just a big year. I mean, I believe that's the last year that Ohtani is under contract. And obviously that's going to be a groundbreaking contract whenever that comes about. I can't even put a figure around it. I can't wrap my hand around it. It just doesn't, it won't make any sense. But again, it's one of the, I actually did like the Tucker Davidson trade. I thought that trade was, to get him for Raisel Iglesias, that was a good trade for the team. I mean, the rotation seemed actually kind of full. You're probably just missing, maybe like another starter or so. But I actually like the way it's put together.
Jared, I'll ask you, getting right into it now. The last time we spoke, the Angels were having a positive record, 27-22. They were in the middle, though, at that time at a 5-game losing streak, from what I remember. I think they ended up losing like 14 in a row. They came into New York, and it didn't get much better. I think, the Yankees ended up sweeping. Everything that, like you said, everything that was supposed to happen didn't. And I think the Yankees were still riding a very hot hand, and they were at a very great time for them in the season. They were really clicking on all cylinders. It was hard for any team to come in there, especially Yankee Stadium, and beat them. But a lot has changed. Like you said, Syndergaard, Iglesias, Marsh, all those guys are gone. Even Tyler Wade made his way back to the Yankees organization. Joe Madden got fired, and after that losing streak, and he wasn't even that bad either. I think he was only like 2 games under 500 or something when he had gotten fired. And then Phil Nevin, the old third base coach for the Yankees, he took over as the interim. And I guess he hasn't done as great a job, because I don't even think he has as many wins as Joe Madden did this season. But the team has really struggled. Trout got hurt again. Walsh and Rendon are out for the season. A lot of guys have come and gone or just been hurt. And with all that being said, how's it been for you as a fan that again sees this sort of collapse, sort of losing season again? I don't mean to be mean or anything. I just, it's tough to see all these high hopes and aspirations with the 2 best players in baseball on the team, and it all just crumble right in front of them.
Yeah, well, fantasy football season's right around the corner. That's been huge for me. Looking forward to that, doing a lot of mock drafts. But besides that, it's been great to go down and watch the minor leagues a lot. Like, that's honestly what I focus on a lot of times anyways. Like, if the Angels are winning, it's great, like Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani. That's really cool. But it's good to see the minor leagues doing something. The Angels are going to have a playoff team in the minor leagues for the first time. And don't quote me on this, but I think it's the first time since 2017 that the Angels have had a playoff team in the minor leagues. And there are, we all know how many minor league teams there are, and they've gone this long without having a playoff team. So it might be before that, it might be 2019, but regardless, you should probably have a minor league team that makes the playoffs every year. But it's been really good. They have, I believe 9 of my top 11 prospects are playing in AA right now. And that team's a lot of fun to watch. And the Angels have been taking a lot of guys up from AA. So those guys are right around the corner. But yeah, from a major league standpoint, it's tough. It's really tough when, first off, you have this amount of injuries. It's tough to watch a team where it's, even David Fletcher was out, for a while, and he's slightly above league average player, at second base. But when you lose guys like Jared Walsh, Anthony Rendon, Mike Trout for this amount of time, Shohei Ohtani thankfully has been healthy. But when you put guys like, Brandon Marsh and Andrew Velasquez and those type of hitters, and I shouldn't, put those guys in the same place, because Andrew Velasquez has been the worst hitter in baseball. Nothing against Andrew Velasquez. I love him. I think he plays great defense, but he's just not a good hitter. When he's in the lineup every day, you're going to have an issue. And that's why the Angels were probably the worst offensive team in July.
Yeah, we could have told you that. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I mean, I love him defensively. He's a great defender. I think we all know that, but the bat just isn't there. He's a good fifth infielder. He's a good guy that, you bring up and down from AAA. But when that's an everyday starter, there's an issue, and it's tough to watch baseball games at that point, or when the Angels are up by 2 going into the 8th, and it's like, well, who are you going to? Ryan Tepera hasn't been that guy. Aaron Loop hasn't been that guy. Raisel Iglesias wasn't that guy this year. So, Jose Quijada is a name that you probably should watch out for. The velo's been down a tick, but definitely watch out for him in the back of the bullpen. A lot of fun to watch him pitch, but they really weren't. They didn't have a guy. They didn't have that dude, to go watch. First off, besides Shohei Ohtani, who's always fun to watch, but they did. When teams are walking Shohei Ohtani as much as they did, to get to guys like Phil Gosselin or Joe Adele or somebody like that, it's tough. It's an easy game plan to beat the Angels. Just don't let Shohei Ohtani beat you. That's it. I mean, I didn't even mention Taylor Ward, but Taylor Ward had been struggling for a little while. He, started the season off hot. He's gonna have a good season at the end of the day, but yeah, it's tough to watch it year in and year out. It really is. But seems like there might be a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, the thing the names that you riffed off are legitimate talent. Again, we're just talking about certain pieces, and the injuries will just catch up to you. There's just no way around it. I kind of want to ask about the rumors came out when Trout was on the IL about what exactly his prognosis is, not so much for the rest of this season, but long-term career-wise. They say the back injury will. I'm not trying to draw comparisons, but they did compare potentially what happened to David Wright, that there was it was degenerative, that it would just progressively, kind of go downhill as time went on. Can you elaborate a little bit if that was accurate, or if that's just a worst case scenario for him?
Sounds like it was worst case scenario. It seems like it was Trout, played it off like it was nothing, to be honest. Like, I just got to stretch 15 minutes more on the backside of things, get it rolled out a little bit more. He's been hot. He's been looking good ever since coming off the IL. So I'm not too worried about it. However, when you do carry the team on your back for 10 years, that type of thing is going to happen, so jokes aside though, exactly. he seems like he's doing okay, but obviously only time will tell. We have seen injuries pile up and the lower body for sure. And, you start looking at somebody like Ken Griffey Jr., with very similar to that, very similar careers at this point. So we'll see. Obviously only time will tell, but it would be great to see him get a little bit more time off, but there is that issue at DH at the moment. So
sure.
Not that it's an issue, but
yeah.
With Ohtani and Trout, going back to the deadline a bit, there were rumors out there that Ohtani was kind of getting his name floated around. I know the Yankees had offered something toward the Angels for Ohtani. I was even surprised to see Ohtani on, at the deadline to be even remotely on the market. Do you think this is kind of like a two-parter, so to say? Do you think that the rumors are actually true and that things were, trying to work out a deal, or you think they were just trying to, get some feelers out there? And do you think that there's a possibility that Ohtani could necessarily get traded before the end of his contract?
Well, I think that comes down to ownership. Is Arte Moreno still around? And I don't know if we're going to talk about that too much, but is Arte Moreno still around? Because that's the guy who wants to keep these big names around, because I mean, you look at it and all of a country is watching him daily. Japan is watching him, and I don't know what time it is there, but Japan is watching him on a daily basis. They, show his at bats every single time. They show his starts every single day. He's a hero there. He is baseball in Japan, and they watch him. That's the culture. It's awesome to see that. It comes down to ownership. That's the reason why, according to reports, and I don't know how true they are, that he didn't get traded was because Arte Moreno would not allow that. Now things have changed. Will it happen this offseason? I don't know, but it's a crazy haul to think about. I mean, there were two trades in the past that you compare Shohei Ohtani to. That's Matt Olson on the offensive side of things, and I'm trying to think of who the pitcher was. Luis Castillo on the pitching side of things. You combine those two trades together, and that's probably what you get. That's an easy way to rebuild. So there are two thoughts, about it. I mean, you guys know it on the East Coast, the Mookie Betts trade. I think it's similar to that too. Like, it's hard to trade a guy like that, but when you can get a return like that too, that's a very quick and easy rebuild for a team. And you guys mentioned, Alex, you mentioned this, the Angels aren't too far away. They have the pieces. They do. Now it comes down to, can you build around Shohei Ohtani? Because that's what you end up doing. You don't have a DH anymore, and we know Mike Trout's on the books for another 9 years, I believe. He's going to need DH eventually. He's going to need to move to a corner spot. You have Anthony Rendon, who hasn't been all that healthy, that could definitely use a day or two off. Have Jared Walsh, who you don't know the future of him. Do you need a new first baseman that could use some DH time? So you weigh your options there for sure. And then I also think it's really hard to bring in a really good pitching right now. You get a guy like the Angels had been in on Garrett Cole. He goes to the Yankees. Seems like every offseason the Angels have been in on these big pitchers, but they can't go and get them. And it feels like because the Angels have a 6-man rotation, it's hard to go get those guys because there is no flow. There is no rhythm in the rotation. So do I want the Angels to trade Shohei Ohtani? From a fan perspective? No. From a baseball perspective, absolutely. I also don't think you can pay 3 guys the amount that the Angels are paying, especially with what the Angels have done in the past, 5, 6, 10 years with development. I don't think you can pay 3 guys that amount of money in Rendon, Trout, and Ohtani, and whatever Ohtani gets. You guys mentioned it. Like, he could get $50 million a year, and I'd be like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense with the revenue that he's pulling and how good he is of a baseball player. So.
Right. So the whole notion that you bring up $50 million a year, that's the number being floated around for Aaron Judge, and he doesn't pitch. So, it's just one of those contracts that's just gonna, again, not so much change the game because there's not anybody else like him. It's just, now you're just gonna push other players to want to do the same things that are coming up through the minors. Mm-hmm. But yeah, what you say, I just don't see. I don't see 3 contracts like that on one team. But even though the Angels have done it, I remember obviously the point when Trout was already making the upper echelon money with Pujols and with Upton. Those were just
with Hamilton.
And Hamilton, Hamilton before that. Yeah. I mean, these are you can't actually carry on a well-rounded club with those top-heavy contracts. You just can't do it. Again, unless you're the Yankees. But again, with the Yankees, there's a lot of people not making that much money yet that are very talented.
Yeah. So, I mean, you bring in like the Yankees, and the Dodgers do it too. Like, the difference between the Angels and those teams being good is development. Like, if the Angels were able to develop players like the Yankees, like the Dodgers, like the Astros, like these really good teams that have consistently been in the playoffs year in and year out, then sure, go like Shohei Ohtani's that missing piece, or Max Scherzer is that missing piece. But to pay somebody $50 million and to not even really be that close to be a 75 win team for the last 3 years or whatever it's been, it's just not realistic.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I feel like, this is where I'm gonna get to, Arte Moreno now, is that I feel like he prioritized hitting, for the last couple seasons, where all the big contracts he's given out has gone right to the hitting side. And for so many off seasons, I've talked about how the Angels always had a scary lineup. Like, their lineup was always like, there's no one you don't like, you think you can get an easy out from, but you knew that the bullpen wasn't the same. And, the starting pitching was something you can hit around. And it felt like every year you were just hoping or waiting, I guess, as a fan, just to see what guy they're going to go get. And yes, they whiffed on Garrett Cole. They've whiffed on others, but I thought they were starting to turn it around a little bit by getting Lorenzen, Syndergaard, Loop, like they were getting some really good key pieces to get innings out of. And, Syndergaard could have been, the guy he used to be, so to speak. And, it's just really unfortunate that it hasn't worked out. But that's why I want to ask you, as a fan, how do you take the news of Arte Moreno trying to sell the team? Are you more on like the happier end, or are you more upset that that again, that you're gonna have to do this? Disney owned the team in 2003, and then he bought it, and so now it's kind of like going through this process again. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, as a fan, you're excited. You really, really are. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And for those who don't know, I mean, you can look up Arte Moreno and go look at Passan's tweet, Jeff Passan. Go look at any, buddy with that blue check marks tweets about Arte Moreno, and it's like the most hands-on owner in baseball. He's gone out and he has, I believe he was one of two guys to veto the Mets owner, I can't think, Steve Cohen's acquisition of the Mets, one of two guys. He was one of the only owners against increasing the luxury tax. He was a big part of the entire strike. So yes, not only as an Angels fan, but as a baseball fan, you got to be excited because he had a lot of influence on Rob Manfred, I believe, at the end of the day. So not only as an Angels fan, but as a baseball fan, you have to be excited. To flip the script though a little bit, Arte Moreno has turned the Angels into what they are today, which is a $2.5 billion team. Yes, the Angels have Los Angeles in their name, and they're 50 miles away from Los Angeles, nowhere near the Dodgers. But you go and look, and before Arte Moreno, they had never spent that big money. They'd always been a lower level team. So, yes, you have to be excited, but you also have to remember that Arte Moreno was a fantastic businessman and turned the Angels, basically into what they are today. So did they go out and win? No, but there is that side that a Steve Cohen person can go and buy the Angels and start spending, and this Angels team can be really, really good, like the Dodgers spending $300 million, like what the Mets have done, like we can actually go see an owner go spend a lot of money and go buy winners and go, pay for the minor leagues. And, there are so many issues in baseball that you can just continue to go on and on and on forever. So, but yes, as a fan, you have to be excited. As a writer, as a podcaster, I'm also excited. I'm not gonna lie, I'm excited to see what this new owner can do. Who is he gonna bring in? Is there, this offseason is gonna be crazy. Like I mentioned it last year during the offseason. I was like, this is gonna be a crazy offseason. I think that Perry's gonna go out and get some guys, and it seemed like that's what they did. They spent $63 million in pitching. They signed one guy, in Kurt Suzuki on the offensive side of things for $1 million, and it was a fun offseason. This offseason is going to be even crazier because they're going to have the sale of the team. What are they doing with coaching staff? What are they doing with, offensive? What is Shohei Ohtani doing? Do you trade him? Like it's going to be a crazy offseason for the Angels, which is cool with me. Gives me more to talk about.
Yeah, you're not gonna be short on topics. That's for sure for the entire winter. But the one person that we can have in common, that now that you bring up the Mets, obviously is Billy Epler, somebody that the Yankees know very well. So Billy Epler, 5 years, 6 years under Arte Moreno. Now his first year with the Mets. What the Mets are doing, look at how that roster is constructed. I think it goes to show that the Mets definitely gave him more say in personnel. Something I think he just did not have much of with the Angels. And I just bring up a couple of signings with the Mets in particular, like somebody like Mark Hanna, not a flashy signing, but 300 hitter, solid contact guy. Something that the Angels, I think, would have a move that the Angels would have never really gone for during the Billy Epler days, maybe because of Arte Moreno. He hands-on owner, that didn't really find that signing sexy per se, but again, the moves that the Mets made, you could tell that was Epler's philosophy that was just, he probably was just never allowed to bring on to the Angels. So when you see the roster construction with the Mets compared to the years that he was with the Angels, would you think that's an accurate statement as far as his influence goes?
100%. I loved Billy. Billy was a great guy. I got to meet him a couple times, and I loved what Billy did. I understood what Billy did too, which is why I was pretty upset when the Angels let him go. You could see it coming, but I was upset when the Angels let him go. And yes, he didn't have a very big leash at all by any means. And you can tell that. You can tell that with Perry. You can tell that with Jerry DePoto, who, oddly enough, Seattle, like what Seattle's doing, like you see these really good GMs, these really good front office guys go away from the Angels and be successful. It's like, well, hey, maybe there's something there. And or you see players leave the Angels and it's like, wow, why is this guy so good with this other team? And he hasn't been great here. So yeah, it's interesting that you are not wrong by that trend by any means. So
that was perfect with Billy Upler, because he started out with the Yankees and it kind of goes, and then he got the job with the Angels, and then now he's striving with the Mets. And I forgot to say that before about how hands-on Arte Moreno was, and I feel like that's what's the big debacle of the Angels, is how much that hands-on, and not giving the GM really any sort of leeway, any sort of getting that collar off to even go out and do what he needs to do to be necessary to get the team to win. And when Arte Moreno has his own agenda, his own thought, and it's kind of his way or no way, it felt like for a while. And maybe that changes now, but that's kind of why with the new ownership, this is a hard question to answer, but I'm asking you as a fan. You mentioned this a little bit before, but you got Ohtani for another year. You got Trout for, like you said, I think another 8 or 9. So far it doesn't seem like it's worked with the two of them together. Maybe that's probably ownership and however the team's constructed, and maybe that takes a new owner to fix all that. But would you see it for the Angels' future? Would it be better for them to have them together and try to work building the team with them, or you think it'd be better to trade both of them? I'm not saying to do it, but I'm saying trade both of them, because you would get a haul of hauls for Ohtani and still an incredible haul for Trout, and there would be no rebuild. You would have a future for the next 10 years with the amount of haul that you would get from the both of those guys. Would you think it would be better for the Angels to do something like that, or to just find a way to build around, Trout, Ohtani, Rendon, and all those other guys?
Trading those guys is suicide. It really is. It's like I hate to mention it, but it's like trading Babe Ruth, like you can't do something like that. Like you don't see that every day. Like Mookie Betts is the closest thing that you compare it to, and it's it worked out decently well for the Yankees, or not for the Yankees, for the Red Sox. I'm sorry guys, that's gonna hurt. I apologize. Wow, God, on me there. That I'm sorry to the listeners there. I swear I'm not that bad. Yeah, it's suicide. It really, really is when you think about it. So that's so tough. Like I've gone back and forth. Like, yes, you can build a team around Ohtani. It comes down to Ohtani. It's not really Trout. I don't think they're gonna ever trade Trout. He's on the books. I don't know how valuable he is to actually trade away with that contract. Yes, it's Mike Trout, but like that's taken on a lot of money into his late 30s, so I don't know how much you would be able to get for Mike Trout. You could get something, but it comes down to Ohtani and trading him at the end of the day. And again, two schools of thought. Do you want to rebuild really quickly and go get what the Nationals got for Juan Soto? Because it's probably pretty dang similar to what the Nationals got for Soto. Or do you want to pay him $40-50 million, whatever that contract might be, and continue to build around them and hope the new owner, can go out and spend a lot more money and maybe push into the Dodgers luxury tax area, like I don't know. That's a fantastic question. I'm just glad I'm not the guy making those decisions. I mean, I would trade Ohtani, like, to be completely transparent. I would trade Ohtani. I would have traded him this trade deadline, especially looking at what the Nationals got for Soto, and whatever the package was that it would had to have included Volpe. It probably would have included a major league ready starter in like Luis Gil or one of those guys, Devi Garcia. somebody like that. And then probably, 3 other top 5 prospects from the Yankees. Dominguez is probably in that mix, so it's it's tough to be like, wow. But also at the end of the day, Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout are producing at the major league level. Those guys aren't yet. You don't know what Volpe is. You don't know what Austin Wells is. You don't know what Luis Gil is. You don't know what Debbie Garcia is at the major league level. I mean, those 2 guys have had some time, but you don't know. So
Yeah, it's not to cut you off, Alex. It's really hard because now I feel like that was your window. Because now a lot of teams are going to say, well, we'll just wait till next year. We'll just wait till the end of next year because we don't have to give up anything. It's going to be really, I think, not like, again, I'm not in any front office or anything. I'm talking as a fan, but I think it's going to be really hard unless you're trading to a win now team who happens to have the prospects you're looking for. It's going to be really hard to trade for Ohtani between, the offseason and, the trade deadline next year, because people are just going to sit there and wait because they know, the contract that he's going to get is going to be out of this world. We're talking about Soto making $50 million, Judge, in the 45, 50 million range. Who knows what Ohtani will be. And it's going to be really hard to trade someone like him. And I think even whatever owner you do have, it's going to be really hard to pay him at the end of his deal. So I think whatever that deal was that the Yankees sent, I felt like that was kind of like for us too, like we needed him because, whatever we did at the deadline with Montgomery and all that was kind of a big question mark. But also, I think you guys, like you said, you probably would have gotten a Luis Gil, Austin Wells, probably Volpe, Peraza, maybe even a Dominguez flipping one of those 2. Like you guys would have had a huge haul in that, probably more. And then I asked about Trout because you're thinking, Trout's on the books, like you said, for forever. But like if there was a time to trade him, or it would be kind of within these next 2-year window because it's probably the highest his value is going to be with all the injuries that have set place. His trade value has definitely diminished from what it used to be. And like you said before, it kind of looks like a Ken Griffey sort of career. Hopefully that's not where it ends up. Hopefully, the injuries never happen again because he's one of my favorite players to watch. He's, incredible. But, that's why I ask, and it's so hard to answer that with with new ownership on the way. So it's like you have no idea what he's going to do, what they're going to do. And it's, it's going to be a very interesting offseason, like Alex said.
Yeah, one guy, honestly, like we talked about this on Talkin Halos, Nate Green and I, and 2 guys that we're really hoping buys the team, and it's a Yankee connection, Alex Rodriguez or Derek Jeter. We hope that one of those 2 guys gets in and finds their way. I know that Jeter's coming off, Miami, but obviously Miami didn't do what that Jeter wanted him to do, so that's why he left. And A-Rod, like I said, knows baseball. I would love for a baseball mind like that. But either one of those guys to come in and have, bring in a team and buy the Angels. So I think that'd be a lot of fun. So there's a Yankee connection there.
Right. No. So yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I would. No, obviously, baseball's better with Jeter in it, one way or the other.
Yeah.
A-Rod, you can say more or less say the same, more or less. I actually had a follow for you, and again, me talking out loud, I kind of had again, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but let me just kind of throw this out at you. Obviously, the reason that even Ohtani even signed with the Angels, granted, there was a whole West Coast thing and whatnot, but the fact of the matter is that it's, again, Billy Epler, when he was with the Yankees, was scouting him tremendously, like nonstop in Japan during his time with the Yankees. That's why the Yankees were so connected with Ohtani, when he was made available. Eventually he signed with the Angels, obviously, because he already had a relationship with Epler. So Mets were criticized kind of, during this trade deadline for not really being too aggressive or, doing smaller moves. Again, they saved their ammunition. I don't know, I'm kind of, reading the tea leaves here that they could be the player in this offseason to make a trade. And if not the trade, Steve Cohen, richest owner in baseball, that's honestly where I kind of envision Ohtani being. The more that I say it out loud, I mean, it sucks for Angels fans. I'm just saying that the more you say it out loud, the more it makes sense. He has a strong connection with Billy Epler. So saying that out loud, is that, I'm not saying is it likely, because nobody knows if it's likely, but ultimately it's one of those things where that has to be thought of. And if that's what the future holds, the Angels might be, they might be in the rearview mirror sooner rather than later for Ohtani.
Yeah, there were 4 teams this trade deadline that I thought had a chance to go get Ohtani. Padres, who went and got Soto, probably would have been a very similar package. The Dodgers, who, golly, that's suicide to send Shohei Ohtani to the Dodgers, I'll tell you that. The Yankees, which is second closest to suicide, sending them to the Dodgers. And I'll say that, like, again, knowing Angels fans, they would just absolutely rip anybody apart for sending somebody like that to the Yankees or Dodgers. And then the Mets, because of that exact reason, because they have the package and because Billy Epler's there. So yeah, those were the 4 teams that I was like, those guys make the most sense. They can get him as well. They have the package and they're pretty damn close and pretty damn ready to going and making the playoffs. So yeah, those 4 teams, 100%. Shohei Ohtani's value is going to go down a lot though. So I think a lot more teams will be able to go in on the mix, and not because of play, but because you now only have one off season with him. And you also have, he's an ARB. So how much is he making an ARB this offseason? 30 million, or this season, next season, 30 million, 30. He's probably going to make the record for arbitration this offseason, which is going to be stupid. So the Angels are already basically signing him, if they don't trade him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I think I just like Alex said, Alex is on point, with Epler and how much he was looking at Ohtani when he was still part of the assistant GM with the Yankees and stuff, and then now getting the Angels and working that out. I think for sure when Ohtani is a free agent eventually, I think it's going to be a huge bidding war between the Dodgers, the Yankees, and the Mets. I think Cashman has wanted him forever, and still, like, it's kind of like a Garrett Cole thing for him, where Cashman just could never get him until finally free agency happened, and then he got Garrett Cole. But I think Cashman and Epler are going to have a huge bidding war for him, and I really do think he will end up in New York. It just depends on which team that is. And I know that probably hurts you just to say, but it's really unfortunate that I think I said this to you last time on the show, but the Angels are probably my second favorite team to watch. Like, I'm only a fan of the Yankees. I'm only I'm diehard Yankee fan. But if there's ever a team I want to make it, it's the Angels, because of the fact you have Trout, and you want Trout to be in the playoffs. It's better for baseball. Ohtani in the playoffs, better for baseball. And it's just, I just like that little brother mentality where, the Angels are kind of the little brother to the Dodgers, where you just want them to be better than the Dodgers. And maybe that's just me, but I just want them to go farther than the Dodgers, or, be considered the team to beat. There were a couple seasons ago where, the Angels and Dodgers rivalry was at a peak because of, the Angels were doing well and they were trying to make the playoffs. And then, unfortunately, second half of the season, they would crumble. But, those are the days I want. And so this kind of brings me to my last question for you. A guy who has been in an Angels uniform, now back with his current team, the Cardinals, Albert Pujols, 693 home runs as of this moment. Do you see him, one, beating A-Rod's record at 696, or can you see him clipping 700? And how excited are you, happy or whatever to see that if he can get it?
Albert's a great dude, first off. He's a great baseball player, but second most, he's a fantastic human being. And I think we see it on a yearly basis, what he does in the community. But do I think he ties A-Rod? I think he gets pretty damn close to A-Rod. Yeah. What do we have? About 45 games left ish, 45 games. 3 home runs. That's doable. 700. That's going to be close. And does he come back next year if he's at 699? How do you end on 699? 695, sure, 5 home runs away. I have to play another half season. But if you're ending at 699, you go out and find a way to hit 1 or 2 more and retire at the retired mid-season or something like that. But Man, that guy's been fun lately, hasn't he, guys? Like, that's been a fun little stretch that he's been on, and it seems like everybody does that. Big Poppy did that on the end of his career. Pujols has been doing this. It just seems like all those guys kind of go on one last little like hurrah, and that's what Pujols is doing now. And it's just fun to see those guys do that type of thing late in their career.
Yeah, for someone like me, like A-Rod was my favorite player. I know how people feel about him, but he was my favorite player. I'm not saying he's my favorite person, that's for sure, but he was one of my favorite players, and I just so happened to get tickets to a random August game, and then that random announcement to him retiring, in the middle of August, which, obviously works out great for us now because when he retired, the very next day they brought up Judge, and it kind of started what it started. And by the time I was like, he's at 696, he's got 6 weeks to go. He needs just 4. Like, just give him. But I guess it worked out. So I hopefully, I really want him. There was a time where I was sitting there with Pujols and being like, don't ever break A-Rod's record because of how much I loved A-Rod. But now I really want Pujols to get 700 because of the fact of how much I was like gypped from that for those last 6 weeks of not getting A-Rod to 700. I really want Pujols to get it. And yeah, I said the exact same thing on Twitter, where if he ends up at like 698, 699, they got to bring him back for like the first month of the season next year just to let him get it.
Yep.
Let him have that huge celebration. And then, retire as soon as he gets it. Huge like thing. You can have a whole parade if you really want to. And and then you could bring up whoever you were going to bring up. And you might even make it work because they might even do like a 28-man thing again to start the season like they did this year. So, like that would be incredible. I just want him to have it. So, especially for someone like you who's seen him play, 9 seasons, in Angels uniform, it's got to be an incredible and fun thing for you as well.
Yeah, I was at 600, 600th home run. The first time I ever seen somebody hit 600, and that was a special moment. The ball landed about probably 50 feet in front of me, which was really cool to see that and see the reaction. And it was just a good game in general. I think they ended up winning that game like 10-0 or something like that. I think they scored like 7 in an inning, and it was just a fun game. It was a grand slam that he hit 600 on. So yeah, it was I mean, who's the next guy that's going to get 600? Like Trout, probably. There are some other guys like, first name that pops into my head is Nelson Cruz, but I don't think he's playing that long to get to that amount.
No.
You just don't know. It's the same thing with like 3,000 hits. Like, who's the next guy to get 3,000? Albert Pujols, was one of those guys. Miguel Cabrera. I don't think we see 3,000 all that much again. I don't think we see.
Yeah.
I know it's a home run error, but we don't see 700 all. Obviously we don't see 700 that often, but I don't think we see 600 that often, or heck, even 500 is going to be that often. So, yeah, I just kind of appreciate what we're watching right now. With all these guys, Mickey, Pujols. It's the end of an era this year for a lot of us who watched baseball in the early 2010s. Like, we're missing an era right now. This era is going to kick back over into the Judges, the Trouts, the Betts, is this World Baseball Classic that's coming up is going to be fun because all those guys are going to be in it. So
yes, I'm really looking forward to the World Baseball Classic. I wasn't at first because I think what is it for, and it can be potentially dangerous. I'm looking at it half glass empty, but then I was like, you know what, that might be such an incredible time, and with all those players playing, I didn't think that many players were going to play. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. This is I thought it was my last question, but this is definitely my last question for you. Just small, for the Angels now with the future, who's someone in the minor leagues that you're looking at for potentially being someone great, or top guy for the Angels in years to come?
Yeah, the Angels have the catcher of the future down in Double A. Like I mentioned, Rocket City Trash Pandas, fantastic name, Logan Ohapi. They drafted in the first round Zach Neto. There's a lot of fun guys. It's a lot of bullpen pieces, but that's what Perry Minasian is known for, is building a really good bullpen. You look at what he did in Toronto when Toronto was good and they had a very good bullpen. You look at what they did in Atlanta when he was in Atlanta and they had a really good bullpen. So the Angels bullpen, he really hasn't been too bad either. And that's probably the toughest thing to build, is a bullpen with how volatile it is. I know, Yankee fans know with how good some of these bullpens could have been, but maybe it wasn't so good. in the Zach Britton, the Aroldis Chapman, the Dylan Betances years, when I thought that was going to be one of the best bullpens of all time, and it just isn't. So it just shows how hard it is to build a bullpen. And I think the Angels have a lot of really good options in the bullpen, but obviously, you have to get to the bullpen first with a lead before. So there's a lot of other pieces in that mix, but yeah, it's the farm system is a lot more fun than it used to be. I'll say that.
Hopefully, it all works out and the Angels can turn it around, especially whatever happens with new ownership. I think that's the biggest question mark, is whatever new ownership does, whoever it is, when they come in and they decide to do what they're going to do, there's probably going to be a whole new reset when it comes to the manager, GM. We could see a whole new team coming in 2023. But Jared, again, thank you so much for taking the time and doing this. I'll give you this time to promote yourself, and where can people find you?
I have nothing good to promote. You can go follow my annoying minor league reports on Twitter at Jared_Tims. We got the podcast Talkin Halos. Put that out 3 times a week. Absolutely love it. We got to get you guys on this offseason to talk a little bit of Angels and Yankees, of course.
Absolutely.
Heck, maybe after the Angels or the Yankees trade for Shohei Ohtani. So we'll see.
Okay. Yeah. We'll be first in line.
We'll get you on. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
So, thanks for having me, though, guys. I just, again, love talking baseball.
No,
Appreciate
of course.
you, thank you, man.
Yeah. No, of course. Thank you so much. Well, that's gonna be a wrap from episode 32 of the Hottest Skeena podcast from me, Alex, and special guest Jared. Thank you all. We'll see you all next time. Go Yanks.
Go Yanks.